Tonight, a 4-year-old boy rushed to hospital with serious burns. Police say he may have been playing with a lighter. And a day of leisure for Port Pirie smelter workers and the rest of the community with the return of the picnic at Memorial Park.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. A 4-year-old boy is in a serious condition in hospital tonight after he was badly burned in a car fire at Whyalla Stuart. The child was flown to Adelaide, where he's being treated for his injuries. Edward McCarroll was on the scene.
Yesterday evening, Whyalla's Galpin Street was a hive of activity as emergency crews raced to free a young child from a burning car. Just after 3:30 p.m, police, SES and paramedics were called to the scene in Whyalla Stuart after reports that a Holden Commodore had caught on fire. A 4-year-old boy seated inside the car suffered serious burns to his face and body as a result of the blaze. His injuries so severe that the boy had to be immediately flown to Adelaide, where he is receiving treatment at the Women's and Children's Hospital, where he remains in a serious but stable condition. Fire Corps investigators were called in to examine the scene last night. However, police are no longer treating the fire as suspicious. The investigators say while the exact cause of the fire is yet to be determined, they believe the child may have been playing with a lighter inside of the car. Police are now calling on anyone with information that may assist in the investigation to call Crime Stoppers.
Edward McCarroll reporting there. At its ordinary meeting last night, Broken Hill City Council pledged to make childcare more accessible. Council putting the wheels in motion to make the city more livable for its current and future residents.
As the Silver City grows, there will be plenty of need for specialised services. One of those needs is childcare. The city is referred to as a childcare desert.
There is a shortage. We're known as a child care desert, and that's when there is only one space for 3 children. We're actually one for 7.
There is some good news though, as childcare providers are on their way, with not only 1 but possibly 2 new facilities for Broken Hill.
Childcare provider has bought up the land, put in their development application, which more or less says it's going. They're very interested. They also are looking at another one.
It's a move that will no doubt benefit the entire community and the future of Broken Hill as a whole.
We have really low numbers when it comes to childcare, so this is really a step in the right direction, and it's something that Council's been pushing for a number of years now.
At the moment, there is no firm time frame as to when developments will start. Once a construction certificate is in place, the community will be further updated.
So they actually purchase the land, put the development applications in, and then they either look for someone to purchase that land and construct the childcare centre themselves, or build it and then sell it off.
The future is looking bright for Far West New South Wales. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Those who waited in line to get cheap fuel one last time may have been shocked to see the prices hovering around the same mark today. Even though the fuel excise tax break was removed last night, motoring bodies say it's likely we won't see the price jump until next week.
The fuel excise has ended, but the price of fuel looks no different than it did yesterday. The RAA advising motorists who are panic buying fuel that they still have at least a week of cheaper petrol.
We don't expect the 25 cents price increase that's come from the reapplication of the excise to really come into the market for a week or two. And the reason for that is that the excise is collected at the wholesale level. So it's only trucks from today that are picking it up from Birkenhead.
This means we will see a gradual shift in prices, depending on how quickly the regional service stations restock their fuel.
Average prices in the regional areas and Port Augusta and that, it's been sort of around $1.65, $1.70. Within probably 2 or 3 weeks, when that 25 cents has been added, we'll be starting to look at fuel prices around $1.90 a litre.
The RAA says for local families already struggling with the cost of living, paying an additional $15 each time they fill up will hit them hard. saying it's important for customers to use price-checking apps and only buy the cheaper fuel to force the industry to drive down prices.
We've got to use our power, the power of our purchasing power to change the behaviour of the oil selling industry.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The Smelters Picnic is an iconic event in Port Pirie, described as the regional equivalent of the Royal Adelaide Show. And for one day and one day only, Memorial Park is transformed into a showground with everything from rides to animals.
It's an event that has stood the test of time, but an occasion this big doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, we normally start producing or preparing for the next picnic in November, and then it gets really into full swing around March. By June, July, we're really into it.
The effort put into the Smelters Picnic is obvious on the day. With an abundance of rides, tents and food, there is truly something for everyone. And the committee says it's all worth it when the crowds come charging in.
Absolutely wrapped. The numbers of people here, 12 to 15,000 easy, and I'm really happy with it. And I've talked to most of the stall holders along the street, they're happy as blazes.
The city of Port Pirie stops on this day, with majority of businesses and schools taking the day off to enjoy the event, which was its original intention back in the early 1900s.
I look forward to it every year. It's a great thing. A lot of people come together, and most of the time there's no real problems here with it. Everyone gets along usually. It's always a great vibe.
The event is also a chance for local businesses and councils to interact with the community in a fun and relaxed way.
It's an icon for Port Pirie, it really does do as well.
Given the event's popularity, it's vital the committee gains more volunteers to keep the wheels turning.
We're all over 60 for goodness sake, there's not a youngster among us on the committee. We've had volunteers and obviously young people on the day, fortunately, but we need young people on committees to keep this thing going.
If you're interested in joining the committee, contact them via their Facebook page. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, locals question just how free-range eggs really are. And from flood recovery to fighting the Black Summer bushfires, a night of recognition for our SES heroes in Port Augusta. Welcome back. They're a household staple and can be found in 95% of Australian homes. And it's fair to say Spencer Gulf locals love eggs. But a new survey suggests we may not realise what really goes on behind the scenes in the egg industry.
New data has revealed that as a whole, we still very much trust the egg industry. That's according to new data from the latest Sustainability Framework Community Survey.
And that's a process undertaken by social scientists to try and explore the issues of greatest priority and interest to the Australian community.
Key topics explored in the survey include sustainability, food safety, nutrition and animal welfare.
In the end, they conduct what's called path analysis, and they ask a bunch of questions about trust, and they try and work out what the drivers of community trust are with respect to the egg industry.
The survey found the second greatest driver for trust in the industry is the extent to which egg farmers are environmentally responsible. The topic of on-farm carbon reduction was also flagged, with 50% of the industry's carbon footprint coming from the hen feed.
It's challenging because we don't grow the feed, so we've got a somewhat limited ability to influence that.
Suggestions to address the feed issue include increasing the efficiency of the hen's diet and identifying substitutes for the feed that uses the most carbon. Over the next 12 months, Australian Eggs will be working on the number one driver for trust, which is communicating and listening to the public's concerns to ensure they understand how the environmental management of the industry is improving. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Members of Port Augusta's SES branch have been recognised for their dedication to helping fellow South Australians during the bushfires and during their long commitment to the organisation. The recipients say anyone can join the SES and learn a wide range of skills that can save lives.
A night of dedication for some of Port Augusta's SES heroes. Mark Morgan was bestowed with the National Emergency Medal, one of the highest levels of recognition possible for his services during the 2019-2020 bushfires.
I'm humbled, I really am, but just the devastation that I've seen over there is, and getting to help the community of Kangaroo Island so they can get back on their feet was, really good.
Stephen Chase was commemorated for 5 years of service with the SES.
Good. It's been we've had a lot of jobs lately, and we're trying to get some new recruits. So no, I've quite enjoyed my time. I've done a lot of stuff. I've learned vertical rescue, road crash rescue. So I've got a lot of skills.
Deputy Chief Officer Liz Connell presented the awards and praised the volunteers for their recent storm recovery efforts.
We've had our crews out supporting the community with flooding and inundation into their homes. We've had storms and ceiling collapses, so our people have been out working through the night supporting their community. So I am very proud of them.
The SES is also reminding locals to clear out their gutters and be bushfire prepared as the season begins in 2 weeks' time. They're also encouraging people to join up with the SES as they're in need of more volunteers to serve the community. Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. First COVID, then floods. The PCYC's Nations of Origin tournament to finally go ahead after multiple setbacks. And the Spencer Gulf Towns taking part in the Leukemia Foundation's annual event. Welcome back. After being cancelled back in July during the school holidays, PCYC's Nations of Origin will finally be going ahead next week. Youngsters from Broken Hill will have the chance to represent the Far West on the East Coast.
The floods wreaked havoc on the East Coast, forcing organisers to pull the pin on the Nations of Origin in Newcastle. But after some reshuffling, the life-changing event is back, albeit scaled back a bit.
We were going to be taking 2 teams, so both boys and girls basketball team, but some of the girls had to cancel because of the NAIDOC week that they're involved in, so we're just taking the 3 boys.
Even though there's only a small number of kids going, they're still excited for the chance to go to the carnival and have been training hard in the lead-up.
Really good. Paolo's been teaching us lots of things, and so we can go away and have lots of fun and dominate. He said, just go out there, try your best.
There will be plenty of teams for the Broken Hill contingent to go up against, with more than 60 other PCYCs participating, giving our representatives plenty of game time and experience.
There'll be 65 of our clubs, which we've got 65 throughout New South Wales, and so hopefully there'll be at least 1 or 2 teams from every single club.
The event has a nice mix of sports for the kids to compete in. Those going over from the Silver City will be playing basketball.
We got basketball, netball, gymnastics, football 5s, rugby.
The event runs for 3 days starting October 5. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The Spencer Gulf will shine bright tomorrow night as the Leukemia Foundation's Light the Night gets underway. The event is a reminder for locals to be wary of the dangers of blood cancers.
Leukemia is one of the biggest silent killers among Australians. Victor Harbour resident and visitor to the Spencer Gulf, Tanya Murphy, found herself battling leukemia not once but twice and used services provided by the Leukemia Foundation in Adelaide.
Did my chemo, got out of hospital for a couple of weeks and went and stayed at Leukemia Village, and that's where my family set up for the rest of my time of treatment and healing.
Her story comes ahead of this year's Light the Night event, which will be launched by Channel 7's Bruce McAvaney, who was diagnosed back in 2014.
The idea is really to raise awareness in the community around blood cancer, but also make sure that the people who have blood cancer and those who have been affected by blood cancer or have lost someone to blood cancer get the support from each other and from the community.
Mr Tanti urges South Australians to get themselves checked for blood cancers.
If you're experiencing things like recurrent infections, enlarged lymph nodes, flu-like symptoms, sleeplessness, night sweats, etc., that you go to your doctor and you go quickly. Now, this is a challenge in rural, regional and remote because there aren't that many GPs, right?
Light the Night begins around 7 p.m. on Friday. Go to lightthenight.org.au for registration. Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. From squid to King George whiting, your Thursday fishing tips with our Spencer Gulf experts. We'll have your local weather forecast with Alex Sykes. Welcome back. It's been a big week for our fishing experts, going out of their way to let us know what's biting and where. Today's fishing tip segment isn't just for the boaties, but for our land-based anglers as well. Let's kick things off in Whyalla.
Hi, Whyallah's fishing tips this weekend. The fishing certainly is getting better and better in Whyalla. There has been some great numbers of King George whiting coming in for all the boaties. The best area to target have been just out the front of the Whyalla foreshore and further south down towards Cowlard's Landing. If you're willing to venture down a little bit further south towards Menini, there's been some really easy bag limits of fish coming from that area as well. For the land-based anglers across Whyalla, there has been massive schools of salmon holding up around the Point Lowly and the Becky Point area. Even further past Becky Point, there's been some big schools of salmon, so get in the car and go for a drive, take your lures and have a flick. There's also a few good signs of sharks starting to show up locally around Point Lowly. Get a balloon out late in the arvo and a big bait and you could be in for a really good chance.
Another week around the Gulf fishing tips. The weather is changing. Are we looking forward to sort of the warm weather that we're predicted over the weekend? You could see some of your first feed of blue swimmer crabs if you're in the deeper gutters. Just by a checker buoy, you should be able to find yourself a feed. Our tail end of whiting, we've still had a cold run, so you'll still get some King George whiting out there. The best spots would be Third Creek patches and the top end of Ward's Bit for those. And even if you wanted to go down to Port Davis and look around at Woods Point, you'll catch fish a lot longer out there. The water stays a little bit colder as we roll through. Don't forget, garfish time and tommies. At the moment, it's a fantastic opportunity to catch hold of those guys, but also look for some of your salmon as well. We should see salmon and snook around this time of the year if we do a bit of trawling. So have a good crack over the weekend. Remember your etiquette on the weekend. There's a lot of people that will be going boating for the first time in a long time. So just have a bit of patience at the boat ramp and be safe. We'll see you next week.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Drill the North. Well, back to doing my job. There's been reports coming in. There's still some squid around. I've been getting reports that have gone a little bit quiet, but young Nate Harrison's been drifting along the front of the shacks there and getting a few squid. Kingfish are getting caught up around the top of the Gulf, up around as far as you can go up around the Trainbridge area and also around the old powerhouse site. There are some crabs available, but they're very hit and miss. And there's a lot of silver whiting around now. Those tides have swapped over low out in the afternoon and been getting out in the middle bank. That's all we have from the Drill of the North. A big shout out to the cheap seats.
Cheers, Aaron. Well, time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes. Alex, I know I say this a lot, but it really was freezing this morning.
Well, Maddie, considering it's almost a month into spring and we're still seeing the feels like dip to -3, I think you can say that all you like. Kadina was our coolest centre this morning. 1 degree was the official reading, but as I said, it felt a lot cooler than that. Also, chilly in Woodner and Snowtown, the feels like temperatures in those towns also dipping below freezing. Looking at some warmer temperatures now, Port Augusta and Port Pirie had twin temperatures today. Sunny tops of 21 degrees, bit cooler in Port Lincoln this afternoon, reaching a top of just 15. Looking more broadly at today's weather map now, 25 the top in Coober Pedy, 21 in Port Pirie, 18 in Whyalla, Kadina top 16, Broken Hill reached 19 degrees around 3 p.m. Taking a look at the satellite image now, a high pressure system south of the state will move towards Tasmania later in the week and cause winds over South Australia to turn east to northeasterly. A trough will move across from the west early next week with an associated low pressure system. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Southeasterly winds 10 to 15 knots, seas around a metre, and south to southwesterly swell below 1 metre, increasing to 1.5. Port Port Lincoln partly cloudy, set to reach a high of 17 tomorrow. Much warmer in Cleve, heading for 18 degrees. Mostly sunny conditions in Woodna, set to reach a high of 23 there. 20 degrees in Whyalla, down to just 8 tonight. Mostly sunny in Port Augusta, a top of 24. Kadina mostly sunny and 20 degrees. Port Pirie mostly sunny, heading for a top of 22. Clare partly cloudy and 18 after dipping down to 3 tonight. And it's blue skies ahead for all of our Broken Hill viewers, 21 degrees on Friday. Taking a look further through the week now, starting with Saturday's outlook now. Port Lincoln will enjoy a sunny 19-degree day. Whyalla is sunny and 22. Few degrees warmer in Woodna and Port Augusta, 26. 28 up in Cooper Pedy, partly cloudy conditions. Just a slight chance of a shower in Broken Hill and 22 there. Moving on to Sunday's forecast now. What a nice way to end the weekend. Blue skies just about everywhere. Temperatures between 21 and 28. 26 in Port Pirie, 24 the top in Whyalla. And finally, taking our first look at Monday's weather forecast. Pretty interesting how quickly the forecast can change. Possible showers across the board except in Broken Hill. Sunny and 25 over the border. It'll be a muggy Monday in Port Augusta, 30 degrees and showers. And that's all the weather from me for tonight, Maddie. I'll see you soon with an update. It's back to you.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Thursday. I'm Madeline Kerr. From all of us here, thanks so much for joining us. I'll have updates a little later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.